Greetings. What gets you up? What fires you up? What charges you up? What is something that you think about that gives you this electrical current or this electrical charge that races through your body every time you think about it? And you don't have to be motivated or you don't have to motivate yourself to do this thing. And this thing could be a multiple of things. But what I'm getting at is, what is inspiration? Inspiration over motivation. My name is Tony Davis, coming to you from the Thought Exchange Cafe, and I'd like to thank you for tuning in into another episode where tonight we're going to discuss inspiration over motivation and failing forward, and how you can begin to utilize all three in your life. Let me start off with a little story. When I was a little boy growing up, I grew up in, I lived in Jamaica Plain Projects for a while. And growing up in Jamaica Plain Projects, as you know, it was a project. It was a housing complex. And many kids lived in this complex. And, kids are only kids. But at a young age, I was bullied going to school, coming from school, going to the store, because we were like the new kids in the neighborhood or the new kid in this particular housing complex. So yeah, it was me and my brother and my two sisters at the time. And being the oldest boy, I had to be the one to really protect my brother, to make sure that he got to school, got from school. So I was more so made the caregiver. But in doing so, I met a lot of obstacles in doing that. Being a new kid in the projects, I was the one that everybody picked on. I was the one that got bullied. And, my mom didn't have much because back at that particular time, it was, it was back in the 70s. And back in the 70s, living in the projects, like a whole lot of other people, my mom relied on public assistance in order to feed us, to clothe us, to house us. So, that's how things were back then. But needless to say, in going to school, I had to really, I had to fight to get to school. And when I got to school, I was so tired, distraught, that I began to isolate from the other students. And I remember the school, it was the Mary E. Curley School. And I would isolate. And I remember there's this teacher. I remember this teacher. Her name is Mrs. Roach. And Mrs. Roach, today I still think about Mrs. Roach. She plays a very important part in my life still today for what she did to me, what she did for me way back then, what she instilled in me. And I remember sitting in class and I was sitting over near the window. And yes, I remember this just like it was yesterday because it was something that impacted my life, that still impacting my life today, about learning, education, and wanting to learn and needing to learn. I remember her coming up to me and she had this bouquet of lollipops. Well, they put the lollipops together to make them look like a bouquet of flowers. And she handed me this bouquet of flowers. And she said to me, she says, Tony, if you come to school every day, you do your work, you do your homework, at the end of the week, I'm going to have something for you. And that inspired me, regardless of what I was going through in order to get to school. It didn't matter to me. I was going to get what she was going to give me. I was just that excited about getting there. And not just excited about getting there, I was excited about doing my homework and passing in my schoolwork. And, this followed me for a long time. And as I began to grow up, we moved out of the projects. And as I begin to grow up in my early teen years, I can still recall having that trauma from back then as a kid. That trauma followed me because I didn't have no way or outlet to let it out. So it followed me. So, and I remember now being in, I think, the third or the fourth grade, and we was living in Dorchester. And I remember always thinking about Mrs. Roach. And I said, I'm gonna get my homework done. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do, and I was getting pretty good grades. And not just getting pretty good grades, I was a pretty good young athlete at the same time too. Now, and growing up, when I got to my teen years, is when things started getting a little back Ari with me because my past came back to be my present time because now in high school, by this time I was in high school. And in high school, I wanted to fit in because as a kid, I didn't fit in with people. I didn't have the clothes, I didn't have the shoes. I was talked about, I was bullied. And, I felt like, wow, man, why is this happening to me? How can I feel like a regular kid? How do I begin to feel like a regular person? How do I fit in? So in doing that, I begin I began to do some things that really wasn't good for me in order just to fit in order just to feel some normalcy in my teen years and in high school. So in high school, I began to smoke marijuana, hang out with a certain group of guys. And not to say that these guys were bad. These guys, they were some awesome guys. They wasn't guys that pushed me to really do anything. So I know today that I decided to smoke. They didn't make the choice for me. I made it the choice for myself. And also I can say that, yeah, it was some of the society and some of the people that I was around that I was around that I began to mimic. And why did I begin to mimic these people? I began to mimic these people because to me, it was cool. To me, I was finally in the in crowd. I was finally in crowd. And it felt good, but I didn't really realize what was really taking place. What was taking place was that I was suppressing those feelings and those emotions of not fitting in, of isolation, of feeling less than. I still had this desire, this I still had this desire to learn though. That was something that never left me. Even though I went through quite a few things growing up after I started getting into the so-called in crowd. My inspiration has always been to learn, always been to become a teacher, to be able to explore different avenues of learning and teaching. That has always been my desire. But needless to say, with growing up the way I grew up and getting into the things that I got into, that inspiration died out. That inspiration no more. I was no more inspired to teach. I was no more inspired to learn, to want to learn. I just wanted to hang out and feel part of. That led to getting kept back in school, low self esteem, fear, doubt, and really l- losing myself in the process. What happened was I can recall sitting down and asking myself a question. Where are you going, Tony? Where are you going? Because at this time, I had went through so many different things in my life. I had went from hanging out, smoking cigarettes, drinking, smoking weed, to addiction, alcoholism, and in and out of some places that weren't some very nice places. However, I'm here today to tell a story. And as I said in the beginning, this is about inspiration, failing and failing forward. I didn't know at that particular time that those are my formative years. Those are years that was forming my life for where I am today, that made me who I am today. And in failing, nobody wants to fail. Nobody wants to look foolish in front of someone else. And then we start thinking about, if I fail, what this other person is going to think of me. How are they going to look at me? Am I going to fit in anymore? Am I going to be that outcast? Here comes all these feelings again, all these low self-esteem feelings, these low vibrational feelings that tear us apart, that tear a person apart, because I know within myself it was tearing me apart. And I had to find a way out of that. I had to find a way. And someone said to me, that a little bit of focus goes a long way. And I had to begin to refocus. And I had to stop thinking about failure. Because yes, I had a fear of failure, how people were going to look at me, how people were going to judge me. And that all came from my childhood. I had to overcome that and stop allowing that what happened in my childhood to be the monster in my life. And if I wanted to lead or live a productive life, I had to get over the fear of failure, because the fear of failure will paralyze you. The fear of failure will have you not wanting to try anything. The fear of failure kept me in comfortable mode, kept me in safe mode. And being in comfortable mode, in safe mode, I wasn't growing. I wasn't growing. And I wasn't becoming that person that I could truly become. And I had to understand over time what failure was. Failure is only in that moment. Failure does not have to become the rest of my life. Failure is not definitive. Failure is not definitive of who I am and where I'm going. And failure is not definitive of who you are and where you're going. Failure is a part of growing that I know now. Because without failure, there's no growth. Because if we don't fail at something, that means that we've never tried. We've never put our best foot forward. Because, see, what I learned about failure is that as long as I put my best foot forward, I may not complete it or get it on the first try, right? Or the first effort. But if I keep on pushing forward, now that failure becomes a learning opportunity. It becomes an opportunity for me to say now that I've grown, that I've excelled, that I've learned something. I've overcame that fear. And in overcoming that fear, what happens? We get energized. There's fire burning that there was a fire burning in me that I've been wanting to feel for so long. That inspiration came back. And as a speaker once said, that motivation wanes, but inspiration is what's going to drive you to keep pushing forward. The same with motivation. Okay? We can get motivated. I know let me keep it on myself. I know for myself, I can say I'm going to the gym and I'm motivated to get to the gym. I'm getting to the gym. I'm going to eat right. I'm going to get up and I'm going to put my clothes where they need to get to. And then the next morning when I get up, I don't go to the gym. I'll lay there for another 5, 10 minutes, sometimes 15 minutes. And I never make it to the gym, you see, because I wasn't inspired enough. I motivated myself through saying what I was going to do. But see, I shouldn't have, if it was something that I really wanted to do that fired me up, motivation, it shouldn't have took motivation. It shouldn't have took motivation. I should have been able to just to get up and go. Do it now, do it now, do it now. But falling back into that default mode of comfortability. So see, what I'm trying to say here is I'm trying to show the difference between motivation and inspiration, failure and growth. Because all of us have failed at something. Some of the greatest inventors have failed many, many, many times. Thomas Edison, for one. There's a quote by Thomas Edison that he says that he didn't have 10,000 failures. He just found 10,000 things that just did not work. But he kept pushing forward. He kept moving forward, and he turned that information into data to do better next time. So when he goes back next time, he's going to be able to have more information in order not to do the same thing as he did before. You see, so I'm learning today how to embrace failure, but not just embrace failure, but embrace failing forward. See, now we get into that failing forward. Because, see, it's easy to fail backwards. That's easy. And I'm sure some of you that are listening to me can relate to what I'm saying. It's easy to fall back into that old way of thinking, that old way of acting and living and seeing things because it's comfortable there. That's our comfort zone. I know many, many times I fell back into my comfort zone. Why? Because I didn't want to feel the pain. In failure, no, I didn't understand that failure is an option, giving up is not. I didn't understand that back then. All I understood was I did not want to feel the pain. I did not want people to talk about me. I didn't want, I was thinking in my mind how people would see me. But see, here's another lesson that I had to learn. And that other lesson I had to learn is that I can't worry about how other people see me because it's not their life. And that everyone is going to have an opinion because everyone just has opinions. And those are their thoughts. Those are their opinions. And they're valid because they're their opinions. They're their thoughts. It's not mine. I make it mine when I act upon it. I make it mine when I dwell upon it. I make it mine when I stop in my tracks and reduce myself because of someone else's thought and how they feel about me, or how I think in my mind how they feel about me. Now, check this out, right? I heard someone say that you might be thinking somebody's thinking something about you when they're not even thinking about you because they got their own things that they're trying to figure out for themselves. But in your mind, you think somebody's talking about you. And I had to think about that for a moment because, like, wow, yeah, that's right. That's right. Everybody else got their own issues going on, and I don't know what they are. Why am I thinking that somebody is taking the time to judge me? Because that's my own self limiting belief, or my own self limiting thought that I allowed to creep in and stay there because I begin to feed that. I fed it with my own thought process and how I seen myself. Now I want to get back to failing forward. Failing forward, right? Today I look forward to failing forward because as long as I fail forward, and what I mean by failing forward, right? Learning something new, getting out of that comfort zone, getting out of the known and getting into the unknown. And at first, it was so uncomfortable doing that because I didn't want to feel the pain. And my self-limiting belief is, Tony, you can't do that. How are you going to learn that? You don't have the capacity. But see, that was me talking to me. Just because somebody else tried it and didn't accomplish the task didn't mean that I wasn't going to accomplish the task. And then once again, right? How many how many times have some of most the greatest inventors, Michael Jordan, how many shots did he miss? Did he give up? No. Michael Jordan kept shooting. Michael Jordan kept missing. But with each miss, he went back and he watched the tape. And by watching that tape, he began to fail forward now because now he knew what it is. Now he started discovering what it was that he had to do in order to make that winning shot, where he had to get to with the ball, when to release the ball, how long to hold the ball. He would have never got there without failing first. And this thing called failing forward. I know for some it might be not something that you've heard before because it was something that I didn't hear before. It became new to me. But then I had to not just hear it, but I had to allow it, I had to digest it. Then I had to start thinking about it, saying, okay, what do we do? What is failing forward? Failing forward is, once again, doing your best, doing your best, and not being afraid of trying, not being afraid of taking that first step. Because failing forward could be taking 3 steps forward and then you got to move back 2 steps because something got missed. But guess what? You still took a step forward. You didn't have to go all three steps back to the beginning. Now, here's the kicker. What if I had to go back to the beginning? Many, many times I did have to go back to the beginning. Okay. I'll give you another little quick story about me. I own a small construction company. And in getting licensed, right? In getting licensed, there was 6 books I had to go through. Now the field experience, yeah, I had the field experience. I know a hammer, a nail, 16 penny, 3/8, 5/8, a quarter. All that stuff was simple. All that stuff was simple. Being in the field for so long, it comes to you like that. But then I had to think about this too, right? Wow, how did I even learn how to do that? I had to try. I had to fail at some things, and I did. But I didn't see it as a failure. I seen it as a learning process. And that's what failing forward is all about, a learning process. So when going to get my license, right? I'm going to get my license. Here's these 6 books. And I'm saying, wow, 6 books. And you have so much time in order to pass this test. I studied, I studied, I studied, I studied, and I studied. And needless to say, first time I went in there to take this test, you know, I didn't get it. I didn't get it. And I'm saying to myself, man, what are you doing, bro? What are you doing? And here comes those past thoughts again coming back to me. You might as well stay comfortable where you at. You ain't got to do all this. You ain't, and that's the voice talking to me, right? That's that that subtle voice, that reasoning voice talking to me. And I started seeing failure. But something inside me, I started thinking about I started thinking about Miss Roach. And I started thinking about what she said to me. And she said to me with a gentle look in her eyes, just do your homework. Just do your homework. Come to school, and I'm going to have something for you. And that inspired me to keep moving forward. That if I was going to fail, I'm going to fail doing my best. I went back the second time. I didn't pass. I went back a third time. I didn't pass. And sure, yeah, I was discouraged. Yes, I beat up on myself a little bit. But then again, I remember Miss Roach again. But I also remembered that I'm failing forward. I'm not failing backward. I'm not giving up. Greg LeMond, there's a quote by Greg LeMond, and the quote that Greg LeMond is this: pain is temporary. Quitting lasts forever. I went back to the books. I went back to remembering what that other individual said to me, that a little focus goes a long way. I went back the fourth time. And when they came back and they gave me the passing grade, things have never been the same since. So, what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen, is this: is that don't allow failure to keep you down. Don't allow that fear of failure to stop you from moving. And whatever inspires you, where you don't need to be motivated and you're on fire to do whatever it is that inspires you, allow that inspiration to outweigh failure. But also remember, right, that in failing forward, you're still moving forward. You made a decision to come up out of mediocrity. Yes, you have. Today, I've attended some of the most prestigious institutions here in Massachusetts: Wentworth, MIT. I'm certified in persuasive communication, critical thinking, in order to enhance the message. Today, I'm a professional public speaker. I sit on a very prestigious board. So for me, I'm going to continue to push myself. And I'm saying to you, fail forward. Allow that inspiration, whatever that drive is, for whatever it is that you desire to do, that you don't need motivation to do. Allow that to propel you to that next level. Don't allow that subtle talk or that subtle whisper in your head to stop you. Move forward, fail forward. I'm reading, and I talked about what inspires me. What inspires me is teaching and learning. I love to learn, and I love to teach what I learn. And Les Brown has a quote that says, "We teach that which we need most." Because as you begin to teach it, you get better. And you don't have to teach a class. You don't have to teach yourself first. And then you begin to share what it is that you know, because someone's going to see something in you. They're going to see something in you, and they're going to want to know what that something is. There's a lot of folks out here chasing money. And I get it. We need it to live. And money brings about comfortability. But there's something more vital than money. For one, time is currency. And the more information you have, the more valuable you become to everyone around you. And you're a leader already. So, and leadership is a skill that we develop on a daily basis, right? And leaders don't dim the lights around them. They help them lights shine brighter. There's a book that I'm reading, and it's John C. Maxwell, Failing Forward. And the reason why I'm sharing this book with you is because there's still a lot of people out there who are afraid to fail. Because they was taught that failure is not accepted. Failure is not a good thing. Trust this. Failure is a good thing, especially when you're failing forward. Because now you're putting your best foot forward. Even if you take, once again, 3 steps forward, but you got to take 2 steps back. You still accomplish that 1 step. You still accomplish that 1 step. Ladies and gentlemen, in closing, I want to share with you this. And I urge you that whatever inspires you, don't wait. Don't let fear paralyze you or keep you back. Because if I allowed fear to paralyze me and to keep me back as I did at one particular time in my life, I would not be in front of you. And yes, I still feel fear, but I'm doing it anyway because I can't worry about what others may think of me or how I might look to others here. I can't worry about that because I'm not unique. There's someone else out there just like me or who were once like me. And there's someone out there that that's going through some things, right? That you have some information to help them to get to the next level, or to give them the information on how to overcome being at the crossroads, overcome that fear, and fail forward. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Allow your inspiration to overcome the motivation. So, once again, in closing, I just want to urge you, you have something. You have something within you. And yeah, society sometimes can beat the dream out of you. Society can have you fearing all sorts of things. But keep this in mind. You have one life. You have a destiny, and it's yours. You can't worry about what people think of you or how people see you, because in reality, they're not you. If all of the great inventors and the actors, the basketball players, and those people that you admire, those people that you follow, social media, movies, TV, rappers, singers, you don't think they felt fear as well? You don't think they still feel that fear today? I'm sure they do. But they've become comfortable in feeling that fear, because now they know that fear is something to embrace. Fear is not something to be scared of or to allow to paralyze you. They know that today. And that's why they are where they are. And they're regular people just like you and me. Okay? Just like you and me, they're regular people. There's nothing superhuman about them. Okay? But you become superhuman and begin to fail forward. My name is Tony Davis, coming to you from the Thought Exchange Cafe. And when I come back for another episode, I'm going to talk a little bit about the brain. I'm going to talk a little bit about our forebrain and the amygdala and a few other things. And yes, I'm learning too. I'm not a doctor, not a scientist, but I'm learning, because in learning, I grow. Each one teach one. And as Les Brown said, we teach that which we need most. Thank you so much. And once again, thank you for your time. And thank you for tuning in to the Thought Exchange Cafe. Take care.